All right. Hey, hey. Check, check, mic check. Are you hearing me? Yeah? Okay. This will be the kickoff of episode 3 for season 1 of Between the Lanes, a Ion Esports podcast featuring myself, Ladir King Williams, and my main man over here, Ian Race Crown White. Thank you all for dropping in. Thank you guys for stopping by. This is a little podcast where we talk about esports. We try to range them through a couple handful of different games. Well, they're primarily being League of Legends because that's the game that we both play primarily. But we each have our different games that we focus on, such as iRacing and Call of Duty, StarCraft, and a bunch of other games in between. So hopefully you guys are here and ready to enjoy the show. Ian, how was your Easter? Today is Easter Sunday, 2020. How's your Easter? Hello? Can you hear me?
Okay, turn it. Hey guys, what's up? It's your boy VG Race. Looks like King started without me, but how you guys doing? My boy name's VG Race, and this is the Ion Esports Podcast, brought to you by the creator, the love, you know him, our boy King X Prime. Currently I can't hear him, but let's see if we hit this button. What this button do?
Can you hear me now?
King Reno got a copy.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Uh-oh. We can't hear King, kids.
Oh, well,
Technology. Only good when it works.
not sure what Ian did on his side.
You gotta love these technical difficulties. But anyway, guys, like I
Good
said,
start to the
welcome
show.
to episode 3 of the IO Esports Podcast. Your boy VG Race, King X Prime, and now we gotta figure out why he can't be heard.
I can hear you.
I have my volume down.
Oh, well, that fixes
Kids.
that.
Kids. Well, we're back again. So, a whole bunch of stuff happened in the last week of esports, and we finally get to recap it all.
Well, most of it. We'll do our best, but most of it.
Is it? And don't worry, we'll skip all the big boy stuff. We hit the stuff that really matters. Patch 10.8 and how tanks are back.
Are we on patch 10.8?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
and my personal favorite, and the work, and this is a whole bunch of other things. Most importantly, happy Easter, everyone. Today is a very important day for me, not an important day for him. Working on that. Anyway, not the point.
I wish you a happy Easter in my intro.
Yes, I spent my Easter work getting that paycheck and being a soggy piece of cereal in the rain.
Yeah,
It was terrible.
it's rough.
All you
Though.
endure. However, it pays $11 an hour, so suck it. So suck it to all the folks who ain't got a job right now. Suck it. Anyway, back to the point at hand. Guys, like I said, this is the AMA channel. We're not co-streaming. We are dual streaming together. Same podcast, same level channels. You can find him on X King Prime on Twitch. Find me at RaceCrown21. You already know that. And this will be going up on the Island Esports Podcast and my own YouTube channel. Now, that being said, there are some things I would like to discuss. But let's first see. Let's get to the wise man who runs the show, Mr. Kangarino himself.
Oh yeah. So, how's everybody doing out there? Hope everybody's having a wonderful Sunday out in quarantine land, whether you're at home or spending time with your family. Hopefully everyone is healthy and in the best of care. Yeah, we're like I said, we're in a different time. We're like in the Matrix right now. You just have like a world where some people, you got that lady from, I believe, Florida that was very, very adamant about being protected from this pandemic's virus that's going on. And she, probably went out, had a great Sunday for those. Maybe had some house church. I remember when I was younger, that used to be a big deal, doing house church and things like that. Not so much now, but Uh, Other than that, yeah, esports has been pretty interesting. We're seeing again, as we discussed last time, the progression, a lot of push towards mainstream outlets. Today, uh, April 12th, we saw the playoffs of League of Legends North American playoffs on ESPN2. You know, you had a lot of people who probably had no idea what was going on. You know, and to them I say, okay, boomer. No, I'm joking. Um, but yeah. So it's things like that that we've kind of touched on and discussed in varying capacities, just about how our esports are we'll be pushing into the mainstream. We'll be pushing into uh, the meta commentary of the media because it's one of those things that we can still facilitate. We can still do remotely. We don't have to have enormous staff. You still have to have a decent number of staff, but you don't have to have you don't have to have an arena, you know, with 500 people working to watch five dudes play basketball. So it's just one of those things. I know you say 10, but it's like five on a court at one time.
But 10
versus another five. Okay, yeah, sure.
plus
I
the
mean,
other eight or nine on the bench.
nobody cares about them.
They care about four of them because you remember the six man does matter. Anyway, just give some context. League of Legends sent a tweet out, and this was reported by the Esports Observer. You can follow them at the esportsobserver.com. Keep this stuff free. Yada yada yada. They pointed out that Riot teamed up with ESPN and decided to host their matches on ESPN2, the streaming side of ESPN2, and then hosted today. They put on yesterday today. They put both the semifinal matches on regular television. Now, this is big. This is big because the only couple sporting events that's had this happen on ESPN have been the following. Way back, let's step back in the way back time machine. Way back as the time was 2005. What's it, 6? Xbox One, the original Xbox came out. Halo 2 was the Halo 2 soundtrack dropped, and it was the greatest soundtrack to ever drop ever again. Greatest soundtrack ever for a video game. Halo 2 was Halo 2 was one of the first games.
That's your opinion, but keep on going.
Is it no Steve Vai was it Steve Vai with Nile Rodgers? Big slaps. At the point. And your camera, and once again, King's camera would say he went out. Camera went out on him once again. Anyway, back to the point being.
It'll do that. Let's see.
At this point, at this point, 2005, like the first games used to be the following. It was the Halo 2 days. You remember Red versus Blue? How Rooster Teeth later got their start, all that good stuff. Yeah, it was them. That was the first. That was kind of like the first set of stuff you saw, and then later as we pushed for progression, you start seeing. You start, as I believe, at that point you start seeing Pro Call of Duty later. Before that, Overwatch came and took over the ESPN world. Yeah, that's when they were showing matches on ESPN and ABC and Disney, XD. They had that partnership. But before that, Call of Duty did it with a part of X Games, like because MLG made a stop at Aspen, so they decided to do MLG Dallas. They moved it to Austin and made that a stop. They didn't move it, but they did have a stop in Austin during X Games. So that was streaming on the ESPN3 platform, which is part of the Watch ESPN app. You have Overwatch, you had Dota, because Dota used to host internationals. Used to be shown on ESPN2. And then now you have League, which is one essentially you can't say it's the biggest game in the world, but it's definitely one of the biggest. One of the biggest.
I think the numbers don't lie. It is. It still is. It has the most viewership on Twitch. It's consistently in the top 2 or 3 of Twitch views.
I'm trying to be conservative because I don't want to piss off any Dota fans.
I don't care. I mean, they're able to generate more revenue for the international, but
which league started to apply some of that pressure, some of that.
I mean, the difference is Valve understands, like, okay, if we're selling this thing for $10, and they know that it's going to go towards the team. Let's make 30-40% of it go toward the teams. Where Riot's like, we're going to sell this thing for $10, but the team's only going to get $1 out of that. They're going to get a tenth of that, and it's just kind of like
plus revenue sharing. So I mean, you're gonna get 10 cents out of it,
kind of thing. So it's all mixed up on that end. But when it comes to just pure viewership and pure watch capability, the main issue is like we're here in America, right? In America, there's not a big like League of Legends push because we discussed this last. Did we discuss this, or was this just me and you talking about
we
how
talked about.
like talking about the invested cost of having to learn. So like if you look at League of Legends and you break it down from a skill base point of view, there's like 150 champions. With those 150 champions, they all have essentially at base minimum, let's say 5 abilities. For the majority of them, you have like a Philios who has like 3 or something. But regardless, they have their 4 abilities and their passive. Some abilities have multiple things, so that's already 150 times 4, and then you have to start learning the interactions that work against certain abilities and with certain abilities. So that's almost like an exponential number of combinations that could happen in any given situation. And there's just lack of visual clarity nowadays. You have champions that have circle abilities. I was in a game about a week or no, like 2 weeks ago now, where there was like a Nico alt, there was like a Wukong alt. I think Nasus used his Wither, Vel'Koz was like alting, MF was alting. It was just one of those big old team fights where when you're looking at your screen, you just don't know what's going on. So for somebody who has no idea what any of those things are to turn on the TV and be like, yeah, I'm gonna get behind this. Especially now, like when we have the big productions and everybody's in their suits and everybody's like, doing like world's presentations or like the what's the name of the thing? Just your standard big presentation thing. At least like people at home are going, oh wow, this is a pretty good product. This is a really good production. I like the way they look at the stage, look at the setup, look at all this, all that. But like when you have floating heads like we are here, it's tough. It's difficult to get a bunch of people to be like, well, this looks good. Because even when you don't understand the game portion of it, you can still enjoy the what's on the other side. You can still enjoy the presentation, the presentation.
If you don't understand the sizzle, you can at least understand. If you don't understand what the flavors are, you can at least understand the flavors of the food. You understand that it goes in your mouth.
Yes. I'm still lost on the analogy, but I think
It's food. So again, the sizzle. It's like the problem. Like many people, like for example, and this is like some tied into the world of esports. The NBA today had a horse competition. You know what we have in common with them? Poor presentation. Is it well, not poor presentation? But we had this is the same level of presentation that was in that. It was in the horse competition because no one had a direct feed. It's not like we have a webcam right here or webcam at King's house. And these guys were literally on cell phone reception with each other, being streaming a game of horse remotely from their homes. It wasn't any great production, camera wise, anything like that. It was just straight up. It was almost we almost had a better presentation now than they did in the horse competition, and it turned a lot of people away because a lot of people are clamoring for that sports news, that sports content.
mhm.
So much so that the NBA 2K had a tournament with the players that was already recorded. Those matches were recorded, by the way. All those matches were recorded. They had a horse competition they had the stuff recorded, and MLB is doing a free. It's like a bunch of 5-inning games with their product, and they're trying to get that playoffs and a is in a series, hopefully by May 2nd, which is funny because the date that ends is supposed to be the day baseball is trying to come back and play games without the fans, even though baseball makes all their money through people going through the turnstile versus versus football and basketball, which a dynamic where you can play without fans because someone's still going to watch someone get dunked on. Baseball is one of those games where the fans kind of bring the emotion to the game. There isn't anything being the presentation of those of basketball and football can be artificially assimilated through sounds and cues, where baseball is organic and you literally have to know and sense everything, which is different from many people because especially when you compare this to esports, at some point it gets at some point not at some point you can hype everything up and people shouting it, emotions and like yeah, the fighting's going higher, people get intense, but at some point their organic energy of knowing this is something awesome about I'm watching or I'm in tune to this moment. It's something that a lot of people lost the skill of it because we're being force fed everything. You as a DJ, you know that you can play a whole bunch of songs and you're trying to set the mood for someone to have a good time, B probably have someone at the venue spend a little bit too much on alcohols, and three, well enough where they invite you back because you helped them make money
for the venue. Yeah. Um.
Yeah,
But
but
like I
all
said, like I was saying, we are in a different stage. We are in a different phase where yeah, people. How should I put it? Are having to like relearn entertainment both on the production and presenting side of it as well as the receiving and enjoying side of it because now more people are watching, you know, their oh yeah, this is cool, or they have like their headphones, their earbuds in and stuff, and they're on their tablets. Like, but for the most part, you're this is what we're used to nowadays since we're not going out, since we're, you know what I mean? Yeah, you can have it on TVs and screens and all that as well, but
remote.
yeah, like it's not so much. It's not as much as we were before. So it's very very interesting to see where. Oh, for those of you that don't know, when he was saying horse competition, he doesn't mean like they were racing horses or anything. It's the game in basketball where you take a position and you make maybe a trick shot or something, and then the person that's shooting after you has to then imitate the same shot and make the same shot, and then it stacks up the letters horse, HORSE, and if you complete the letters by missing the shot or not being able to imitate the shot, then you are a horse. That was the game. But
This is also if you play Tony Hawk, skate,
skate,
same.
skate. Yeah, that was
Or
in Tony Hawk. You try to land the trick, and if you get it, you get it. If you don't,
you know you get
same idea.
you catch some letters.
Just for anybody who might have been lost or confused as to why NBA players were playing with horses.
Listen,
Um,
that's not the best part. They had Dimitri. They had a retired, now going into a Hall of Fame. I think Dimitri Cummings or Catchings. I think it's Catchings. She's going to the she's going into the Hall of Fame in Springfield. Right? She's in that Hall of Fame class with Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, cousin of mine, and Kevin Garnett.
mhm.
She's going to the class, the induction class. And this is huge. This is huge. Also, fun fact today, Tamia Moore. I think Tamara Moore will be the first will be the first active men's head coach of a basketball program up in Virginia, Minnesota, in a college in Virginia, Minnesota. Yeah, never knew that existed. But yeah, so hashtag is a hashtag yay women, yay women,
I
yay.
just wanted to also, on that note, congratulate Susie Kim and Monte Cristo. They recently just had their first child together um, on April 9th. So I just wanted to congratulate them on having their beautiful baby boy. I believe his name is Maximus. Max. I know he'll probably never see this or anything, but I've been following Monte Cristo since he was a StarCraft commentator. He's 90% of the reason why I even play League of Legends. Him and Doa.
Um, who is Susie Q?
Susie Kim.
Who's that?
Susie Kim, she's essentially the ambassador to esports, or she was like the ambassador for League of Legends esports to Korea. She would set up team houses in Korea for teams to come over and scrim. She would also set up and stay like when they did their boot camps and things like that. She would set up and organize all and facilitate everything for the teams as well as being the like liaison between Riot Korea and a lot of the teams. Now what is she doing nowadays? I know her and Monte Cristo had been in a relationship for a very very long time, but professionally they kept it between just between close friends and themselves. Let's see. She doesn't really have listed in like her Twitter bio. It just says wash your hands and drink more water, which I can get behind. But yeah, she more or less for the longest time was like you couldn't do anything when it came to League of Legends in Korea without going through her. So
she was an NHIC then.
I think she started off also, maybe not started off, but I know for a while she was also translator for a lot of communications between the teams, even in interviews. Like she would do interviews as well as between teams and Korean management and things like that. So she's been very very prominent and busy, especially in like the LCK and OGN world for League of Legends. And then of course her and Monte Cristo are married. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out and say congratulations, and I hope for the best for you two hardworking people and the new chapter in your life, motherhood and fatherhood.
It only gets harder from here now.
I think it's the inverse. It gets easier. Like it's one of those things where it's like she was pregnant, and then now they're gonna deal with like the crying and stuff. But then as the baby gets older and gets more sense, then it's like okay, like every step has different challenges, but as if you're doing what you're supposed to do as a parent through those steps, it gets easier. When you screw up as a parent, then you're stuck dealing with difficulties in your youth and whatnot. And as your youth become adults, then they live their own lives and rinse and repeat. So
yeah, listen. Well, like I said, we cover everything on this show from game culture to life tips. Always remember, kids, drink plenty of water. Your body's, I believe, 70% water. It needs water.
I mean, I feel like that's one of those weirdo facts that they told us when we were kids that they never presented any proof for. I'm sure it could still be true, but that's just one of those things that like they used to just throw stuff at us when we were kids and be like, "That's a fact," and then like 10 years later, they're like, "Actually,
it's more like 80%
or
now."
whatever. Actually, your body's just 80% salt if you play League of Legends." So,
no, but it's uranium now. We're toxic. Ha! Good one.
All right.
Uranium. Anyway, I brought all this up because the fact that in the world of esports, we covered the good, the bad. Now we're about to get to the bad. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, I'm a sim racer by trade now. I started as a League of Legends shoutcaster player. Returned to sim racing because for a while NASCAR had a big drought and there was no content involving NASCAR and racing at all. And then I joined iRacing because I wanted to be an oval driver. And now I'm going to speed past all this. NASCAR, as you know, had to cancel their March races. They ended their March races. So for the week of spring break for college and the week before. So Atlanta, Homestead, right? NASCAR decides to do this. NASCAR does this. They do a pro invitation. Last week they went to Bristol. And a whole bunch of stuff went down. Including one real world driver losing his real world sponsorship because he left the race after getting intentionally wrecked. Now, this is the part of the show.
So I would say this is where you probably need to slow down and really, as grinding as it's going to be, explain it to people so that they have an understanding of what you're discussing and maybe make it more relative to our clientele, I guess, our viewer base.
Let me break this down.
Because it
World
took him like 3 times explaining it to me for me to be like, oh,
in the world of
okay.
NASCAR, sponsorships and marketing is everything. Now, just like in esports, marketing is everything.
Mm-hmm.
Now in league, you just can't. Here's the kicker here. When World LCS happens, even is it everybody knows the little secret that even the games of whitewash, you still have to play it out unless you agree to forfeit. And yesterday, Evil Geniuses got their butts waxed twice, but once. One good real time. They didn't forfeit. They played the game out. Now, let's flip back to the iRacing. For all those professionals in esports, they know that they know what's at stake. But their real season doesn't exist outside of this their computer. NASCAR drivers generally their season is on a track, racing cars. And when you had when that comes to a grinding halt for public safety, I can say that right. Public safety.
Sure, yeah.
It was public safety, and they can't race on the track, but you present them this opportunity. If you don't enforce the same type of realism that they normally facing every Sunday or every weekend of every Sunday, minus Mother's Day weekend, you have problems. Bubba Wallace was intentionally wrecked by another driver, Daniel Suarez, 10 laps into a 10 laps into this into a race into the broadcast. And keep in mind, Bristol did something different. They did 2 qualifying races, which basically determined the order of where you start. One heat was the inside, one heat was the outside. No one got cut. Normally, when you do heat racing, you get cut. That's how it works at your local short track. 100 people show up. By the end of the night, you get down to the last 20, 25 people to race for the money. But you race heats to give everyone at least a shot between here and the LCQ, which is the last chance qualifier, to make the main, where you get the monies. Make sense?
Of course.
Everybody. So, 10 laps into the run, Daniel Suarez wrecks intentionally Daryl Bubba Wallace. You can find him on Twitch at Bubba Wallace 76 on Twitch. He ended his stream. He alt F4 at the race. That means he quit. Alt F4 at the race. Blue Emo did not like the fact that he quit in the middle of a race, regardless of how bad the enforcement of the rules were. He quit. Consequently, if you check Twitter and all the mentions, he got cut. He lost his whole sponsorship. Not just on that car, but also a sponsorship in real life. He lost that entire real world sponsorship for that ride. All over the fact that he alt F4 and quit a stream in the middle of something that the sponsors are paying to have their name there, paying for their representation there, because they realize in the climate we have now with limited amounts of live sports opportunities, the fact that you can get your name out there legitly in front of the conscious eyes of people, and you saw that the numbers of views and the Nielsen ratings going up for a 2.5 hour window, and you leave, you see the problems. Now, for most people, like, what's the point? It's not real. Howdy, Smogden. It's not real enough. But to everyone who's spending the money, if Faker quit and left a game in middle is like he didn't like it, Faker's would be liable for some money, if not some legal ramifications. I believe I'm right on that one, right? If he just literally left a match.
They have I believe in professional play they changed it. There used to be a ruling on it because like the last time I think I've seen a professional team. Personally, the last time I've seen a professional team quit a match was like in 2012. It just doesn't happen anymore. I think they made it so that pros can't leave game or can't just forfeit. Like, yeah, they have to play until the Nexus goes down. Whether that means them trying their heart out or whether it means them, I don't know what happened. We went to all push bottom lane and then they all just took our Nexus. But they want to keep it in the interest of competitiveness. Like I said, the last time I saw a game end just out of being forfeited was, like I said, Faker. Let's see, if I remember correctly, Faker was on LeBlanc. So it's 2012. Faker's on LeBlanc, and he gets to the point where he has DFG at like 11 minutes and can one shot everybody on their team. Because this is back when like the only tanks on the team were top laners, and by tank it was like Jax or something. But like everybody else on the team, the AD, the support, the mid laner, the jungler, they're all just like disappearing. And the team just forfeit at 20 minutes. And because this is before you could do the 15-minute surrender, the team forfeited the second the 20 minutes hit. I think it might have been the game right after his debut. The whole, because everybody always talks about like how Faker, like, okay, so quick aside, story of Faker that people generally go with is the idea of how Faker like solo killed Ambition, which is a cool thing to do. I'm not trying to detract from it, but people, BT Dubs, what's up, Smoke did. I told him I'd give him a shout out. He said he came in and said howdy on mine, but I told him I'd give him a shout out once you got done talking. So thanks for dropping by. Thanks for sticking around. Make sure you spread the stream around. Let people know that we're doing this. But anyway, people generally tend to focus on Faker's debut matchup where he was playing Nidalee mid. So this is makes me feel not old, but it makes me just go, man. Think about this matchup, guys. It was Nidalee mid versus Kha'Zix mid, and Nidalee versus Kha'Zix, and this is when Nidalee spears were pretty much the same length, but did like 4 times the amount of damage, and she was just full AP, could just one shot you from max health with the spear. And Ambition, and the reason why it's like, I guess, exalted, because Faker was a rookie first game, Ambition was an established pro, so you had Faker coming in with a lot of hype. He was a Syndra one trick in solo queue. He played Syndra, LeBlanc, and Orianna, I believe, leading up until his pro game, and yeah, he killed Ambition. The thing that people don't talk about is Ambition was evolving under tower. It wasn't like Ambition was like doing all this cool stuff and had his flash available and all. This is when Kha'Zix used to do his evolve. It used to take like 3 seconds because the animation would start and then he'd like shoot out his arms to get he'd get his spikes out and then he could like move. So it was like a 2-second. And if we know anything, a 2-second stun in a game is long enough to kill somebody, let alone a 2-second self-stun where you can't do anything. So Faker just beat him up under tower. Now, and again, not to detract from how well he played that game, I'm pretty sure it's like the very next game is the LeBlanc game where he's like 20-0, just one-shotting kids. That game was way more dominant by any means. That might be his most dominant game. He 1v9 so hard, they forfeit the match at 20 minutes. But nobody ever talks about that game. That game was baller.
They also talk about that game 5 blind Zed outplay.
Oh yeah, that's the other one. People talk about the 5v5 or the 1v1 Zed outplay. Oh my god, Faker, what was that? Look at the cleanse, look at the moves. They talk about that, but they don't realize like both players had a Shen on their team and neither Shen ulted. And I know Impact's ult was up. That's the other thing. Impact's ult was up. Impact could have made that play look a whole lot more boring, but he just wasn't paying attention. So I mean, but besides the point, right?
Back when Shen was good.
Shen is always good. That's one of my favorite champions in the game.
Back when he was permabanned in low elo.
Back when his ult wasn't on like a 5-minute cooldown.
The good days. Force of nature days. Good days.
But going back to the whole, I guess the question I want to ask, or the topic I want to discuss, is professionalism in our
Realm.
in our realm, because our realm isn't. I feel esports isn't and shouldn't be held to the same standards as traditional sports. And Ian and I may disagree on that. I believe that esports is functionally different. Traditional sports are functionally different. You're dealing with groups of people that have completely just okay. I guess the best way I could do is an example. If you were to take a a professional basketball player, and you track. I'll use a professional football player since we talked about basketball for a little bit earlier. So take a professional football player, and you trek from their start to them being a pro, right? They're born or whatever. They get into little league, the Pee Wee league for football. They're in Pee Wee league, powder puff, Pee Wee league, whichever you want to call it. And they they have a coach, they have a system, they have a structure that they should be following and listening to. They have a hierarchy. They understand that. Then from Pee Wee league, they go into high school football or whatever in between high school. Whichever. Some people have middle school football, some people don't. I'm just saying, for the most part, it's like Pee Wee leagues until you get to high school, and then the Pee Wee get divvied up into other things. But then you get to high school, and in high school, you definitely have a coach. You have a coaching staff. You have people around you that you listen to. Your parents are influencing you to listen to, and you have your academics things going on. Then you finish high school. You potentially get to college, or you go to what are those schools called that athletes go to? Prep schools, preparatory schools. Yeah, so you
ain't good enough.
So you go to a preparatory school, or you go to a
university.
Yeah, you go to a preparatory school, or you go to college or university or whatever, and you play under a system there, and then you finally make it to the pros, where you're still playing under a system, and there's all these things that are in place. So you're from the time that you were like, I want to be a football player, young, you've been playing underneath these systems, and you've been growing and learning all these, like how to acclimate to different systems and acclimate to different ways of playing under someone or listening to a coach and listening to these values. The difference that I see is now if you go to like the esports side of things, just straight up esports, just us gamers, right? Us gamers, we just, if you have the means to like have a computer that can run something or a video game console, you're in your house playing your game. So let's say you just happen to be really, really, really good at the game, right? If you're exceedingly good at a video game, like if you are the faker, if you are the what's the boy's name? If you are simple or freak, if you are freakazoid, not freak. If you are the who else is really, if you're Armada or if you're MKLeo, these are people who, played video games as a kid, no training. Played video games as a teenager, no training. Got into their upper teens, into their lower 20s with still no coaching, no training, and are if not the top, or at the top of their gaming thing, right? And now they've been able to reach and hit this point without any aid or help from coaches, coaching staff, trainers. They just did this all on their own, right? So then you put them in a system where it's like, all right, now you have to listen to this random person who maybe, one, worse than you at the game that you're playing. Two, they may be not I won't say not as intelligent, but not have as much information on the topic that they're trying to help you explain or help you with, because they don't have the same level of depth of understanding that you have. And three, what is my third point? Oh, and then at the end of the day, they're relatively young. We got young people. We got 15, 16-year-old prodigies. And then by the age out time, you have people who are like 22 to 24, and they're like, oh, they might as well retire now. They're getting, like, I literally was watching the post stream for today's match, and people were like, well, maybe it's time to get rid of Bjergsen. He is getting kind of old. He has been in TSM for a really long time. Maybe he's the problem. And it's like, He's top 3 best player in the league at any given time. And you're thinking he's the issue for why TSM is having difficulties? Out of here. Anyway, but back to the whole professionalism. I don't think that there shouldn't be professionalism in esports. I think professionalism has a different metric to work with because you're working with a different clientele of people. Like, people wonder why the NFL is riddled with like criminals and stuff. Like, why the Dallas Cowboys is always hiring people with like domestic abuse charges, and why Mike Vick can get picked back up on teams and all this other. And people have like, and anybody who went to the University of Miami has a whole criminal record. Like, people wonder, but then you go, well, these guys have had a certain style and a certain way of life and living, so they live almost in a different realm than the average regular person. And if we're gonna be introducing, and I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that's right either. I shouldn't be saying that. I'm saying I understand the mentality as to why they have the mentality. I don't agree with their mentality 90% of the time, but I understand why they have said mentality. I'm saying, as for esports, we also have to be understanding that like nerd rage is a thing, right? Nerd rage is a huge thing. So instead of, I understand that, you know, you're invested in this and you're like, this looks really, really bad and you should have enough Alt 4. But you have to think about it. This man is probably looking at this situation as this is going to be one of the biggest opportunities. He might. I'm not saying he is. I'm saying, but he could be one of those guys. He's playing out of his mama's basement. He's been a loser all his life. He's been a nerd. He's been picked on, made fun of, and this is his chance on national television to say, hey, this thing that I dedicate 80, 90, 100% of myself in and involve myself in, and I'm going to show everybody how good I am. The one thing that nobody can tell me that I'm not good at. The one thing that nobody can shut me down. And what happens? Some jerk who bought his way into the system and got a free pass wrecks him out of the race. Of course he's going to quit. Cuz what's the alternative? You get a whole face cam of him punching things and throwing keyboards and wrecking his stuff. What do you want to see? I mean, you don't want to see either, but which would you prefer to see? Someone just be like, screw this, I'm out, and be frustrated? Or somebody go on a whole meltdown on national television when we're trying to legitimize what we're doing?
Two things. One, for those who don't know, in the Pro Invitational, a lot of these guys have accounts. Bubba Wallace has his own account, but every driver is allowed to have an account and with the content. So, and they're all racing fixed setup. So everybody's setup is the same. Two, Daniel Suarez is a pro NASCAR driver, but Wallace is a pro NASCAR driver. The issue here is the issue is not with Bubba. I have it like, and my boy in a digital posted posted it on the forums how they don't understand why is it Blue Emo just straight up asked Bubba for Alt 4. But the real problem goes back to NASCAR's not really helping iRacing enforce some things. Because at one point these guys are multimillionaires, okay? These guys are millionaires going into iRacing to help the fan base who's struggling for actual cars on actual tracks, not getting that. And iRacing is the closest by production standpoint and by quality standpoint, the closest you're going to get to the actual real car feedback to racing. Because everything else is just a sim cade. It's either not accessible or not as famous as racing. Three? Is it three? And it's like three. I think we got and three to answer your question. I'd rather you alt F4 out and then do something that was gonna cost you, but quitting both still cost him. He lost an actual sponsorship, and what hurts for Richard Petty Motorsports specifically is that Richard Petty Motorsports is not owned by Richard Petty anymore. Like the days of Richard Petty, the king of NASCAR, I've won 200 races. Was a cultural icon. That's not his team anymore. That's somebody else's. It's his team owned by somebody else.
It's only his team in name. It's not his team anymore. You had to sell it and all that other stuff. Yeah.
Yes. the control is not him. It's kind of it's kind of what happened in Batman. I believe I believe what happened in the Batman arc in the Christopher Nolan series. Uh, I think at one point Bruce Wayne didn't own his company. But he had to go back
they were trying to like buy him out. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And he goes back to buy and get Lucius. I think this is
He gets Lucius Fox to basically run the company. Yeah.
The company, so it runs the company and the quote unquote research and R&D department.
Yeah.
AKA the
Again, I wasn't trying to make an excuse for.
I'm not making an excuse. And
no.
Both on the same post.
Yeah.
Like we're on the same page. Like
I would much rather neither of those things be like the options, right? But for us gamers, for the most part, a lot of us do have our times where our moments where we're frustrated, where we're mad, where we're upset, where we tilt off the face of the world, things like that, you know. And it's not I don't think it's a matter of how should I put it? I don't think it's a matter of like
seriousness, but what you also
so I know maybe it was a month ago, Ninja got a lot of flack for a tweet that he put out about people who don't become emotional when something happens in a video game, and the pushback from the two trains of thought that I saw, or there was three. There was the initial post from Ninja. Maybe I can find it. Let me see. Or I can look it up. Ninja. Maybe it would say something like what. Ninja tweet. I don't know. Just a game? Maybe the. Excuse me. Oh, it said, the phrase "is just a game" is such a weak mindset. You're okay with what happened, losing, imperfection of the craft. When you stop getting angry after losing, you've lost twice. There's always something to learn. There's always room for improvement. Never settle. So I remember when that first like went up or whatever, from a lot of gamers and a lot of people in the gaming community, it was just like, hell yeah. They're pretty much like, yeah, if you like lose a round, if you lose a game, if you lose a match, especially if you feel like you've been cheated or something happened that wasn't like just like skill to skill where the person just straight up beat you, yeah, you should probably feel a certain kind of way. And when you don't, then not only have you lost in game, but you lost mentally. I saw a lot of that from responses and stuff, people in agreement. Then it was like this second wave was like, I call them like the non-endemic gamers that don't really understand like the mindset that a gamer can be in. Where they're like, oh, you should never get that angry or upset at anything in life. And it's just like, what? It's like, yeah, it was like, what? What are you talking about?
This whole like,
yeah, basically, it's just like, I don't understand how you can like, you should be passionate about some things, you know.
Error 404. Their logic not found.
I mean, I understand why they have that sentiment, like don't nerd rage or baby rage over everything, but yeah. The people who kind of came out of the woodwork who have next to nothing to do with video gaming, to be like, that's the wrong way to react when you're frustrated, sad, mad, whatever, right? Because he didn't say go out and do something violent. He didn't say go out and
action.
Yeah, he didn't promote any call. He just said, hey, you have a losing mentality essentially if you're okay with losing. And that's a loss in the game and a loss mentally. That's how I interpreted his tweet.
AKA every Overwatch player ever.
And then the third group of people I saw were like gamers, but more like on the more I want to say it's the pro side or the side of gamers that what's the word I'm looking for?
Allies.
Sure, gaming allies, I guess, would be a way to put it. Hold on.
Fix the camera.
No. So on
Now you're too dark on stream.
on Overwatch on whatever this is on Discord. I'm really I'm like perfect on Discord, but then I'm really blown out on OBS. So I don't know if that's something where I have to change OBS. But either way, you saw the third group of people, or am I super dark on yours now? Like super dark? Oh well. I'll move mine back up. Oh, that turned it off.
Let that be like
a happy medium. Either way. So you saw the third group of people who were looking at Ninja and looking at the responses from everybody else, and they came in with like this like middle ground kind of answer, which was like politically correct, but still trying to like be like, but you should still understand the emotional aspect of it. And it's kind of like, as gamers, yeah, we are competitive. I think what happened is historically people always look at gamers as nerds, dweebs, quote unquote the beta, because we're not like playing football and all this other stuff. But it's like, but I played football. I ran track and field. I've been a cage fighter for 2006 was so 13 years, right? No, we're in 2020. So that's 14 years, right? Holy smokes. So you can't use that whole beta alpha bullshit when you're talking about the majority. Like, I'm just using myself as an example. You yourself, you're like what, 6'1", 6 foot?
6 foot 240. Played everything but hockey.
Right? Gamers are the oppressed minority. We are not an oppressed minority. We just
no, we are a minority. No, a fun fact is that the average gamer is actually King's age. Above King's age, 30. 4% of that are women.
I don't go with all those metrics, because they be counting people. They count people who play like Farmville on their phones and like all sorts.
They're still gamers. Remember,
I don't.
That's the beauty of games.
Yeah, it is, and I don't want to gatekeep, but it's this weird metric that they only cherry pick when they want to do certain types of things. Like if they want to demonize gamers, then it's like the sweaty computer nerd that sits on his computer all these hours a day. But when they want to be like inclusive, then it's like, don't look at the sweaty gamer nerd that we just used to demonize. Look at like everybody else that played Angry Birds one time on their phone. It's like, what? How do they count? Why do they get what? Why aren't we using that statistic when we're talking about all the terrible stuff that you want to use against gamers? You can be like, oh, 1 in 8 trillion people that are gamers do terrible things. But then instead you'll just be like, here's the population, here's why gamers suck, and blah, 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 blah. But either way, like I was saying, I think let me just finish my point about the whole in hindsight thing. So we've gotten to a point where the majority of people do whatever they do and game. It's like people, especially in the mass media, the media that we're slowly. Oh, what's up, Poppy? I just wanted to say, Yellow Poppy, thanks for dropping in the chat. And that we are not the oppressed minority. We are a minority as far as mainstream versus non-mainstream.
Well, we may be your.
I mean, we're minorities, but that's a whole different conversation, not to be had on a video games talk show podcast. But it's like these older, some people say boomer-esque people have like this idea that life is like Saved by the Bell from back in the day, where you had like your jocks and your nerds and your homecoming queen and your popular girl and your bookworm.
Zach was a douchebag. Zach was a douchebag.
But they it's like they're like, and these are your roles and this is what you're stuck in, and not and you can't get out of it. Where in actuality, in hindsight, and in the real world that we live in, it's like everybody I know out and people that I meet play video games. Like when I'm at work, you know, when the resort was still open and everything, you would have people come in, you'd start talking about something, or I'd be reading an article, and I'd be like, wow, this and this happened. And the people behind in front of the counter would just be like, oh, word? Oh my God, yeah, I was just on, da, da, da. And I'm just like, what? You play? And it's just like, more people play video games than you would expect, because it's something that you can do competitively, you can do on your leisure, you can do professionally, you can subcontract video gaming if you wanted to. But you can do studies with it. We have our friend Aaron. He has a think tank. I wonder how that's going. I'd have to contact him. But he has a think tank that's going on with the video game situation. The amount of middle who play Animal Crossing is eye opening. Yes. Gamers are literally everywhere, and Animal Crossing is proving it. When this pandemic hit, boy, if I didn't see an uptick of people being like, I'm glad I got Animal Crossing. And I'm like, Grandma?
This is, please. Animal Crossing is just Nintendo Sims. Let's be real.
Hey man, but people need to have simulated life when real life is slowed down.
Listen, no, this was funny. Farm Sim is a thing. Now, granted, Farm Sim is awesome. But Farm Sim has people who just came off the farm. They go to the virtual farm, start farming other stuff.
I mean, what about like Stardew Valley? I think is the one game. Bro, I'm finna buy it. Right? I've been playing a lot of COD lately, but need some good in my life. Yeah, just change the energy, get some good energy going, and that's gonna be Animal Crossing.
Is it no? The correct and clearly you didn't spell iRacing correctly.
Oh jeez. Don't. So this is how you know we're definitely not sponsored by iRacing. Don't play iRacing. Don't do it. Please don't do it. Because one of us goes in and we all go through it.
iRacing. Is it where the pros come to own their skills? Now again, the pros, the cool side about iRacing is this. Name any platform where you can actually play against somebody in the platform and actually stand a chance.
I mean, realistically,
because we don't stand a chance against Faker.
I mean, you could if you practice. What do you mean? Blabber is like the best jungler in North America. Anyway, don't get me started. Just because his name is what you should be saying is we couldn't stand a chance against Kiwi Kid. That's like closer because he's like D4 or something, you know. Like,
get my point. Is it also shout out to C9 from pushing the ticket to the finals. We don't cover pro esports often, not because of the fact that he's not awesome.
Kiwi Kid, right? Gang.
There's more and more qualified people to talk about pro esports than us, because most of our audience doesn't care.
Yeah, I was gonna say they just don't care. I mean, they might want to know like who we're supporting or who we think or why we think a team might win. But at the end of the day, like you got a whole plethora. You got Dom with his like 3 shows. There's one show with Thorin and the other show with Loco Doco and stuff. You got Monte Cristo and Thorin. They do a really
Riot's whole thing.
Oh yeah, I really don't pay attention to them. That's like getting information about a company from the company. I never really like trust it. It's always kind of like a big PR thing. So they never.
Oh, little heads up.
Esports is hard to get into. Yeah.
Storm. It's a storm in that area. Just a heads up.
A storm in your area? So are you just letting us know just in case like your house blows away or something?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I got to enjoy my time talking to my best friend.
In sports or in esports? Is that I'm already only semi interested in sports. So is that in sports or esports? Physical, traditional sports.
Traditional
like
sports
soccer.
are great. You mean?
Are what? Did you say are great?
Sports are great. Sports are good. Sports are the reason why I have food.
Okay, that's a cool flex. I personally my interest in traditional sports like wax and wane. Like sometimes I'm really really about football or watching basketball and stuff, um but I can understand when people pivot or when people change or when people aren't as invested in a traditional sport. Just like when people pivot or wane or aren't as invested in esports. It's a slice of life. Variety is the spice of life. Everybody should be able to pick something that they enjoy and something that they want to continue with and go with that. So if you find yourself and like I said, our show isn't like anything having to do with like esports predominantly, but we do sometimes talk about like today TSM lost to FlyQuest. Like to me, in that conversation, I'll just be like, "Wow, I expected TSM to beat FlyQuest, but clearly wasn't the case."
Solo was on his.
Yeah, it just turns into then maybe you talk about individual players, but I'm not gonna be like, well, you look at the metrics of the breakdown of the draft, and when the draft and they took on this on round 3 of Red F, and then they counterpicked with. I don't really care about that. I just want to.
I would, because I used to shoutcast, and this commentation is my thing. But 'cause again, it comes from the world of sports. You learn that the devil's in the details, and knowing how to read your opponent. Now, reading your opponent and beating your opponent are two different things. Ask the cage fighter. He knows to tell the tape, but it doesn't mean anything if you can't land the
If you're
punch.
not, yeah, if you're not landing your punches, if you're not landing your strikes, if you're not doing, you can game plan all you want. One of my favorite fighters of all time was Mike Tyson. He said everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. It's a great quote. It's a great quote. It's the truth. Oh my! You go in there, you're like, all right, all I gotta do is slip the jab, and then I'm gonna weave, I'm gonna smooth, and then when I hit it, when he goes for this, I'm gonna go for that. But where am I? What's going on? Hold on. Okay, let me regroup.
Everything changed. Like everybody says things are all peaceful.
Until the
Then the
Fire
Fire
Nation
Nation
attacked.
It's like it's one of those things where even I bring up with people, and that's again like one of the things I bring up is the fact that esports is right now. Like I brought it on radio for like 2 weeks. Esports betting has gone up since there's been no. The esports betting has gone up since the decline of traditional sports. It's gone up. The interest gone up. The interest most people they don't feel invested because it's not slap it's not a bop yet. It's not baby the baby. This ain't a bop. It ain't a bop ain't in it yet. And it takes a minute for a lot of people to get on the boat, and a lot of it can be helped if we had maybe subsidized computer costs or our own countrywide internet, so that way our internet won't be like at 48 if we paying for 200 megabits, and we can be like 8 all around, or maybe 10, which for King be like I don't. Which is great since the riot servers are in New York. It's in Chicago, Chi-Town. Yeah, yeah. If it, King would don't have King and being all the way in the northern part of the northern part of the state of New York wouldn't have to worry about lagging out of a game because he has 8 internet, 8 to 10 ping internet
I
on
wish
fiber.
I wish it was 8 to 10. My internet or my ping is generally around 58, so it's almost like 60.
Wow, I got you beat.
Yeah.
Thanks to my internet, thanks to my internet, I'm at thanks to my little deal
On
Comcast.
like a good day, it'll be like 42, but it generally stays in like the mid 50s.
I'm at 48 to 42.
Yeah.
Well,
But I mean, at the same time, it's better because like I started playing when the servers were in California, and I was in a brick. It was like a brick lawyer's office because it had been converted into a house, a home. Actually, I'm living in a lawyer's office right now. That's kind of interesting. I've just moved from lawyer's office to lawyer's office. Just dawned upon me. Anyway, uh, and my ping used to my lowest ping was like 110, and my average ping was like almost just shy of 200. So I learned to play League on like 150 ping average.
And keep in mind, our boy Tyler used to play 200 ping average when he lived in Germany.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things where it's just like, yeah, maybe having as you say, subsidized internet, but maybe just a better internet structure.
I say subsidized so that way we don't get charged out the wazoo.
Yeah,
People can still make their money,
I mean, like,
but they got
I think part of this pandemic is also going to. I got 42 ping right now. Yeah, yeah. So you and Ian
with fiber.
are in the same kind of boat. I think
He has fiber though. It's the difference.
with this pandemic, we're gonna see the vast majority. We're gonna see a big difference in the way people look at certain things as like rights versus like luxuries or whatever. As we're seeing, like right now, the only way that kids can get any type of education currently is over the internet. And if you have a family that can't afford or doesn't have internet in the home, like
Can't go to the library.
you can't shame them to be like, oh my god, I can't believe you don't have internet. What? It's like, yeah, some people are living paycheck to paycheck, and internet just isn't a necessity. You know,
Now,
they make sure their rent's
libraries are
paid.
closed, right?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Technically,
I don't know
more
because it.
more than 10 or more. So yeah,
Well, yeah, I think that's a conversation for depending on what counties you live in, which state you live in, things like that. But yeah, the general guideline is groupings of 10 or more. But like, I know my library in my area would celebrate if they had more than 10 people in there at once. I used to go there. I used to go there every week just to, because I would use the printer before I bought a printer. I would use the printer, or I would be looking stuff up, and yeah, it was like vacant. They'd have like 5 people. But now all the schools in the area are shut down. All the colleges are shut down. So if everybody were to show up at the library right now, or not everybody, but if you have half of those people who may not have access to internet in their homes, now we're talking. We're looking at, do we make this a right? Do we advocate for having, like you're saying, subsidized internet, or an internet utility that maybe we all get charged an extra $1.50 or something in our taxes, but then we all get at least a base minimum of internet connectivity within a household, or on a device or something. And
better
I don't know how you would
fiber internet throughout the country.
I don't know how you would implement that.
Yay!
Okay, so then you'd have to go, who's going to build all the fiber optics? Who's gonna shell out that cost?
This no see. I can tell you right now, not you, but guess who'll be employed? Guess who many people be employed if they have to lay all that network down?
For the same amount of people that are employed when they do it regularly. They're not gonna
No,
hire
more.
extra people. They're just
Oh,
gonna
listen, no. If
they're
you're on that bad boy out like
okay.
Korea style, yes.
So then they hire an okay amount of people for a short amount of time. That
Yeah.
doesn't I know that like artificially boosts and help people temporarily. It doesn't help people in the long term.
It's a yeah. At the same time, that's a nice amount of people getting a paycheck, which is hey, because yes, you still got to do that and then maintain it. Then on top of that, with more technology coming online, it's my community college is doing it. A whole bunch of colleges are doing it. They're launching. What's the correct term? Would be entrepreneurship programs, where now people are getting ideas. Right now, if some businesses fail and they can't come back because well, life happened. There's some folks who've been saving up all this time, waiting patiently to finally strike. They can make their ideas and make their money at a time where technology opens up. Every time we had a new G of internet connectivity, 3G, the 4G allow us to the 2G let us send text messages. 3G let us watch videos and play. 4G let us play games at a higher rate. 5G is gonna let us play. 5G may open up the door for some things that, for some people, it can go from zero to hero. They can start singing the song Hercules Zero to Hero, because they'd be rolling as a hero. But that's the point I'm making.
Takes money to make money. So that's a very opportunistic and optimistic outlook. And you may be right. Somebody out there is going to strike it rich in this next wave when it comes to you know, everything the aftermath or whatever this entails.
which
Um
which which then allows like again what we've seen it now. Esports is getting a chance to be on normal television. Now, just think if also one a side note about League of Legends on regular television. It kind of sucks if you're watching it on the television because halfway through picks and bans, it gets cut out.
well,
So the second
League
half picks and bans get cut.
League of Legends wasn't structured to be a television broadcast. It was always structured to be like a. I mean, they could curtail it to fit into the way television time slots and commercial breaks are set up, but it was set up, and the way it's been set up is as we watch it on Twitch, how we watch it on YouTube. You turn on the stream and you just let it ride, and they kind of go with their. It's so the way I look at it is like an NFL game has 15-minute quarters. Basketball, I believe, is the same, right? 15-minute
12.
quarter, 12-minute quarters. So they can say,
Period, but they call it quarters now.
yeah. So you can
But there's
break
timeouts.
it,
But there's timeouts designed.
but essentially you can break it down to fit into a certain time frame, into a certain box of time, and then you slot in your commercial breaks and everything else, your timeouts in between, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas with like League of Legends, you have a game that could be 20 minutes, and then you have a game that can be an hour and a half.
We have seen was it an 81-minute dream in LCS?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like you have like so you can have a game that's done in the span of like a TV show, like a half an hour TV block, or you can have a game that runs the length of of a movie. It's not like, oh, there's a time limit to each game, and once the game gets to a certain point, that's when it ends. As the game ends when it ends.
Which is kind of the joy and the drawback of League. Because I've been in those 60-minute plus streams. Man, those are good. Those are the most tense matches of your life when you're sitting there knowing that one false move and it's your butt.
See, I look at it in the opposite. I think games that go that long are being played by just people who are both bad on both sides. Like once a game hits a certain point, a team should be able to close out because of the way the game is developed.
Developed. Then.
Even back then, well, you have to think back then we were just worse players. I remember being in a game that was like an hour, maybe it was like an hour and 6 minutes or something. And I was like, oh my god, that game was so epic. It was a crazy game, and we won or whatever. And I was like, hype, and it was good. But then, like, I look back on it, because I think I might have the screenshot when towers regen. Towers still regen HP. The Nexus towers and the T3 towers still regen HP. The ones that are in your base.
Look how crazy it'd be if your Nexus towers actually could regen if the game went too long.
The Nexus towers regen. What do you mean?
No. As in, they were dead. They're not dead anymore.
Oh, they came like they get resurrected or whatever, reconstructed. That'd be a little weird. But yeah, but then I look back at them because they're on my old laptop, and I look at some of the things, and it's like, wait, we had somebody who had like 24 kills. And was that like full build like this entire game? Like what is going on? And then you look and you have like other people who are building like AP Ash and stuff, and it's like, wow, if they had just like bought an Infinity Edge instead of a Death Cap, we would have won this game. Like what is going? Where are we at? What is going on? It's one of those things.
No, never forget the 72-minute dream, the 81-minute dream, and the 72 minutes in Worlds where the support Sona didn't die once and lost.
I mean, it's just like you said, better teams. So in pro play, better teams are making poor decisions against one another. In our common play, we're just making poor decisions all the way around. That's just how I look at it. I think because here's how I look at it as well. If you had two players that were from a higher MMR in those games on like one team, they would close out the game. They'd be like, all right, go do this, go rotate here, go do this, and take that. Anytime that I've ever climbed out of bronze, well now iron bronze, it's strictly because of game decision. It's strictly because of I have this much of an advantage, we can push this. And the time that you lose is either when people get stuck in that mindset of like, well, I'm not strong enough to carry, so I can't follow this rando. I need to carry. I'm not farmed up yet. It's one of those things. I call it the laning phase is or isn't over syndrome. Have you ever noticed when you're really, really ahead and you break lane? So like, let's say from the 80 carry roll, right? You're really, really ahead. You guys are smashing lane. You're like you're 6-0. Your support is 0-6. You guys have taken your tower. You've killed the bottom lane tons of times. You've taken your tower, and now you rotate to the mid lane. And the mid laner is just like 0-0-0 or 0-1-0. What does the mid laner immediately start doing?
Why are you in my lane?
Why are you in my lane? Ping, ping, ping. Get out, get out, get out. Quit taking my farm. Get out. What are you guys doing? Right? Now do the inverse. You guys are having an even lane or you're having a struggle in your lane and the mid laner has just crushed and demolished. The mid laner runs down the bot lane, gets a double kill, takes all the farm, starts hitting the tower, and you're like, I need the lane to keep on going. They're like, lane phase is over, bro. Lane phase is over. I don't know. What do you mean lane phase is over? So it's just like, it's one of those things where
the part of hashtag delete solo queue.
That's funny.
No, yes, delete solo queue.
Anyway, so I guess what I'm trying to say is better players understand tempo and game sense into like what to be doing and when to be doing it. And that's just it's metered. It's like I understand stuff that, let's just say, like silver and below don't understand. Whereas like Shattuck understands stuff. Shattuck and Tyler understand stuff that Diamond and below don't understand. Just like Uzi and Faker understand stuff that Challenger and below just don't understand. Right? So
and
like
we understand things that most people who don't play comp understand. Like for example, you said it yourself when we almost played Clash tonight. There's a lot of people who go into some of these go and play just for the fun of it, and then there's people like me and you who's like, let's come up with these like 12 different comps.
I wouldn't say 12. 12 is a lot. But I generally I would try to say have at least like 4 or 5 comps on hand.
No, we have like 12 because like again it just invert. Most of them are just inversions of them. Inversions of comps. They're inversions.
Okay.
Like you say, like the core is there. For example, a protect comp with all healers and maybe an Ezreal mid. Then you have the same comp, protect comp, but now you're running with you're running with maybe instead of having a Nami, you have a Taric.
Okay.
And now you say again, you're flipping it. It's like
I understand.
So you're still having that super heal. So you take your Lulu mid, or you run a protect comp without a Lulu, or you run a protect comp without something else.
Yeah, no, I understand.
And then you run a dive comp. You run a protect comp that can also dive.
Yeah.
Which it's like you start throwing these variables into it. It's like it's the same base, what you're saying, but now they're inversions where you can play what you want to play, but now the win conditions change. Like a protect comp on Misfortune almost doesn't make a lot of sense. But a protect comp on Cogmall makes a lot because of how much output of damage. Now a protect comp on Misfortune is more of a just keep her invulnerable long enough to let bullet time do bullet things.
Mm-hmm.
And like you run that protection with a Taric or a Braum where you just block all the skill shots there. A Yasuo to say stop all the skill shots there. A big old Maokai that says, oh, by the way, no. Is it Maokai? And then it's just for good measure. You run a jungler like a Nunu or Ivern and says, oh, okay, go. Is it like JT? These niggas up and you screw them up. So now you think that so anyone in the mid line, so anyone who dove forward, they got them. Anyone who's stuck in the mid line, you have Ivern protecting the mid line while you have the big old tree holding down the front line, allowing Yasuo to do his thing, and Tark is protecting Misfortune, and Iron's protecting him while protecting Misfortune, protecting everyone in the front line. So you running this protection here while you're zoning, keeping Misfortune. Let's let it back. She stay in that cone range to lay down bullet time.
Well,
Now,
I think you got really really into the weeds on that example, but let's just pull it back and let's just discuss how Clash, because it just happened this weekend. We can have a discussion about Clash. Um,
oh yeah, I forgot about that. We're supposed to put a pin on it.
yeah, and understanding just in our day to day play how we can utilize either our day to day play to improve Clash or things that we can do to make Clash better, as well as looking at the professional scene, how we kind of just discussed previously. Um, there's no pathway, there's no true pathway to um,
Pros.
to a professional level of play. We I think we discussed previously that it used to be the whole where you play rank 5, you get your rank 5 teams up to the challenger series, and then you would play for the challenger series to slot
your challenger series.
to slot into the LCS. But now with
Franchising.
and they did away with relegations. You can only buy into the LCS. So the only way that you're going to get slotted onto a team is if you.
Get it?
I mean, you don't pay to get slotted onto a team. I was gonna say,
No,
but the teams pay to get others positioned into the LCLs.
The point is, take my card.
But not to get on the team. You don't pay to get on the team. That's not what I'm talking. That's what I'm talking about.
I'm talking about the other option.
You can't pay to get onto a team, Ian.
No, you can't pay to get on a team, but you can buy a roster of a team. Like how much?
Who's gonna just wholesale their roster?
Somebody who apparently people who don't like the revenue sharing, where the league is set up. Yes, it has happened. Remember, never forget, Unicorns of Love were in ULCS before they went to their proper sharing franchise mode because they realized the money they getting don't fit the outcost of what they had to do.
I mean, look at the situation that they're in now with the whole Immortals and everything else. Like coming back to the league basically because teams are like, yeah, this isn't from us from a financial standpoint. But regardless, what I'm saying is you right now when it comes to playing a mode like Clash is the closest thing that we have to ranked 5s.
And online tournaments.
Some people, yeah, and online tournaments. Some people will say, well, we have flex queue, dynamic queue, but
people treat it as a joke.
Yeah, I'd say majority of people treat dynamic queue as a joke. I've seen when people actually try, when you have 3 players or 5 players that actually try, the rate of climb is so much faster and so much higher than
solo queue.
Yes, because there's that level of understanding. Like somebody had their stream on. It might have been what's the boy that he's a Draven main. I can't remember his name right now. But
not Tyler One.
No. I can't remember his name. I can't believe I'm forgetting. Is
Low Gmo?
Geronimo. Yeah, I think it was him. He was just messing around a while back. It might have been during the Dynamic Queues days. It might have been in the beginning of when they changed it from Dynamic Queue to Rank Flex or whatever, positional flex. But I just remember it was like him and it was him and like 2 other people, or him and like in a whole team, and they ran like the same exact comp from like Bronze 2 to Challenger, and it was just like, oh, wow, this is what happens when you have people that are like good. And he used to be, I don't know if he still is, but he's a challenger, or he was like a Challenger Draven one trick, but like everybody else that he was playing with was like platinum and stuff, and they were like, and they could say, hey, I'm a Challenger player,
It's because and that's why I personally wanted to hashtag delete solo queue, Because right now, solo queue is the only way you get, if you're
To
high enough solo queue, get
delete
the
solo
ladder.
queue.
2020, it's 2021.
I
Delete
don't know
solo
if I can agree with that one, sir.
queue. It's a like Thanos, snap it, then disappear. Anyway, back to the point I'm making is this. The point I'm making here is this. You're working your way back. Solo queue. The only way you get into the Honda Honda scouting grounds, proving ground, slash proving grounds, is being the top ladder in solo queue, not signed on a team. And then you get put on these teams, coached up by league personnel, and then you get noticed on the showcase. And then if you do well, you may get signed by an academy team, which 9 times out of 10 is guess who owns that academy team? A pro team. So basically, you get put under their learning team. You can't get draft. You can't. Obviously you can't. If you wing your way in the academy, you can't go straight to LCS from that team. You just get nitpicked like you in the G League. Get nitpicked like a G leaguer. And what's the point of that? Like, that's the point of that. Is like you don't really get that development, and then everyone down the solo queue ladder, and you see it in North America. And we said this in the first episode, and this gives a snippet to y'all to go back and watch the first episode. King said this. King and I both said this because of the fact that NA is so casual. NA gets really casual when it comes to gaming. Other regions take it so seriously. A person was getting arrested, was in trouble in the law. The cops let him finish the game, then arrested him.
Oh, over in Korea or whatever.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. He stole some stuff. They caught him. They let him finish the
At the
game.
PC bong, yeah.
They caught him. Yeah,
Because they
but the
understand
point.
they didn't want them to impose on the four other people. He was in a League of Legends game, and
Yes,
they understood that if they carted him off, he'd be negatively impacting the four other people in that game. So they just
yeah.
waited. The game finished, and then they carted him off to jail. But there's that level of understanding. There's that level of validation for gaming as a source of revenue, as a source of income, as a profession that we're just slowly, and it took an entire pandemic to come around to be like, hey, yeah, maybe this is something that's viable.
Now, and do keep in mind that I brought this up. The reason I brought this, the reason all this ties into Clash and tournament play and solo queue is this: because the people who know they're good enough to make LCS, they'll get selected. It's the people who are in Challenger who maybe play one champion.
Oh, one
I'm
tricks.
telling you,
Tyler, you can't do that. Tyler
I can't,
won.
not anymore, not
Yeah,
anymore.
I was gonna
Can't
say
anymore.
you can't do
Example,
that.
example, example, example. You know those one tricks. The only can play a champion. You have a whole bunch of people who climb up ranks because they know the fundamentals of the nuances of a champion, and they climb up that way. Your one tricks, but then as you go down, once you start really getting deep down to, like everybody used to love Trick 2G. Everybody used to love Night Blue. Yeah, you guys watch these guys. You watch how they play their respective roles. But at some point, League of Legends is not just a game about results, but it's also a team game. Now, granted, most pro plays based on results, but because it's a team game, individuals can have different impacts. The way Blabber played yesterday was insane for C9.
I mean, Blabber's just been playing out of his mind this entire
Yeah,
season.
but the way he played that series was phenomenal and well played to him. Good job, man. But League is a team game. In the end of the day, you're not playing 1v1v1v1v1. You're not playing Deca kill over here, okay? You're saying two teams of five. That generally means that it's two teams. It generally means you're playing as a unit. Now you can have those 1v9 games where you just
No, you
you,
can't. They took that. They patched that out of the game over the course of
oh,
years. But keep on going.
oh,
I'm just saying. I haven't seen a dominant 1v9 performance since like season 4 of season 5.
okay, so it's more like a 2v8 now. Let's be honest. Dual queue, you can 2v8. You can just 2v8, have someone get camped, destroy them, tilt somebody to the point where they can't play the game no
But
more.
even then, just from let's just keep 100. Like if me and you were to duo queue and I'm on Fiora or Tryndamere, one of my good top lane split pushers kind of thing, right? They've essentially made split pushing bad. They've made split pushing just bad. And then they've made every other champion that comes out has at least like 1 or 2 CCs. Even if they're not like why does Camille have to have a CC? Because it sets up her entire kit, and like without it she's useless. Why does Zoe have Sleepy Trouble Bubble? Like that also amplifies the damage she does. It's kind of like having Ari on steroids. Why does Nico's alt CC, Tom Kench 3-hit passive CC. Who else is new that just recently came out? Aphelios has a slow and then a root. Like, can they come out with champions that... And the problem is, if they don't have some form of CC, then they're just looked at as, like, not viable. Yes. Like they either... If they don't have CC, they have to have so much damage that they're broken, i.e. Akali for a year and a half.
Is it Lucian for like almost a year?
Lucian was strong. Lucian was strong, but I think people misappropriate Lucian's strength. He was a strong champion because
right over.
Well, no, he wasn't. If you look at the nerfs that they did to Lucian, they've only nerfed his damage a handful of times. His other nerfs were like he doesn't get a reset on his dash if he kills you with culling. Culling doesn't scale with attack speed, I believe, anymore. Or maybe it does, or maybe it's vice versa. But yeah, culling doesn't scale. Like, you don't get more bullets the more attack speed you have. You don't, the range...
The cleanse all CC.
Yeah, well, not all CC, slows.
Slows.
It used to cleanse slows. Your range on your Q is shorter. A lot of these things are utility aspects for Lucian, not so much damage. The reason why he was considered broken is because he had all those utility things, and then the AD carry items and AD carry base points were really, really high at the time. So it was like a happy marriage of like, my natural kit is broken, and then the things that I use are also broken. But then what happened? They did the thing that they always do. They nerfed all the things that were naturally making them stronger, and then they went and completely 180'd all the AD carry stuff. So now he, instead of being at least like a C or B tier AD carry, he went straight to the F pile. They do that all the time. Like they'll bring in an item, they'll introduce an item. Let's pretend we'll just call this item like Magic Water. They introduce Magic Water, and like if you have any CC in your kit, it'll triple the stun duration, and it'll give you double your armor and magic resist, right? That's something that they'll do. And then someone like Nautilus or Leona becomes god tier, broken tier champion, right? So then they'll nerf Nautilus, they'll nerf Leona into the ground. And then they'll go, wow, well, Nautilus and Leona were nerfed into the ground, but man, Rammus and
Echo, Tank Fizz comes back.
Well, no, they'll just say no. Somebody was CC because Fizz only has his knockup. But then they'll be like, oh man, who else is a crazy CC bot outside of those two?
Echo can be.
Echo just has one stun.
No, but it's a slow.
Yeah, I'm talking about like a hard CC bot. Literally, Nautilus has a hook, a root, his ult. Okay, so yeah. So then they'll be like,
what is Malphite? What is Malphite?
Malphite only has a knockup.
What is Ash Arrow?
Those are just hardly more CC is really, really good. But they'll go and they'll be like, man, it looks like this item is making all these champions so broken. Maybe we need to rework the item. So then they'll nerf the item, they'll nerf the item, and then eventually they'll be like, maybe this is just a bad item to implement, and they'll completely get rid of the item. But then you have see, the difference is when they got rid of Death Fire Grass, people forget they went back and like the 6 champions or whatever that were broken as shit with DFG, they basically put DFG in their kits. So like Fizz's DFG got added onto his W and his ult. So he does more damage with if he hits you with the W when it's empowered and all that, right? So he does more damage. LeBlanc, her DFG got added to her Sigil of Malice, where she shoots a little circle thing at you. When she pops that with another ability, it does a shit ton of damage, and it scales. Ari, her DFG got put onto her Charm. It does, you get, I think, 35% more damage if she charms you for like the next 3 seconds or something. Vagar, they changed his to a percent health alt, so that this way, because before he could one-shot anyone, even tanks, because he would just do like 4,000 damage, true damage. Now, without DFG, he was struggling. So they were like, all right, we're going to make your alt percent health, percent missing health, so you can execute people. So if you had a tank that was missing like half their HP, he could potentially one-shot them if he had enough AP. They added DFG into those champions kits. But what they end up doing now is Nautilus and Leona, they'll do something like when Nautilus auto attacks, the root is only for like 0.25 seconds. His hook range has been shortened and narrowed, and his knock-up duration on his ultimate has been reduced to it has been range reduced. So it'll be something like if you auto attack and ult somebody that's right on top of you, it's like a half a second knock up. But if you root somebody who's in the way back of the team fight, it'll be like a second and a half. They'll do something like that with the balance changes. And then for Leona, they'll do the same thing. They'll shorten the durations and they'll make her weaker and they'll bring down her resistances and her armor and stuff. And then the next thing you know, they get rid of the item and they don't buff back the champion. So now the item that broke the champion, that you've already nerfed and weakened, now the champion doesn't even have the item to use. Like, what? And now they're still in the same dog crap.
Was it Runic Bolwick was the greatest item ever, support item of all time, next to Heart of Gold and Philosopher's Stone. Yeah, granted, only reason those items existed because we didn't have gold per items for supports.
Understanding, but I guess what I'm saying is we already know Riot has an issue when it comes to balancing out champions and adequately balancing champions, or in their infinite wisdom, maybe this is how they balance them so that way you get a rotation. But then we also see that there are things that are just for some reason always good. You just have to be able to you have to be at that skill level of play to utilize it. Like right now, so like the Clash tournament that I was in, right? Everyone on our team kept on saying that we should run early game comps. We should just run them over. If we need to play these early game compositions, and that's how we're gonna win. And if you were to ask anyone higher than our ELO, not anyone, but if you were to, the further up you go, because people are just better at the game, you're seeing that these run you over early comps aren't winning. They aren't doing well. The comps that are winning, the comps that are doing better are the scaling comps. There's a whole meme about the whole Sinners versus Saints and with LS and over in Korea and stuff, where you see in like the thing that's happening in Korean Korean pro play, and I guess in their solo queue games as well, is you'll have a team play a scaling comp and you have the other team play an early game comp. And 9 times out of 10, the early game comp will just lose because the scaling team is just going to wait it out till they get to the point where they can just run over the scaling team.
I.e. the Elements Alliance days?
For the most part, yeah. Like any team that Froggen's ever been on, just let them scale.
So in other words, if Froggen's team was in this meta, they'll be back. They'll be back.
They would do well because it's not so much about like before when the meta was really, really fast. Yeah, the game would get to 25 minutes and then be over by like 27 minutes. Now games are the way the game is going is like set up by like 25 minutes, but that game still drags out to like 32, 35 minutes. And in that like 7 to 10 minute period is where the scaling champions come back. Yeah, that's where they come back. It's like you have to close by playing early game, you're pigeonholing yourself into a position where you have to win the game and you can't screw up. Everybody has to execute. Everybody has to be perfect. Everybody has to be good. If you play into a scaling comp and you just play the comp correctly, what just happened? If you play the scaling comp and you just play the comp correctly, you're going to scale. You're going to hit a point where it's the inverse. It's like you can do no wrong as long as you follow these certain metrics, as long as you follow these certain things.
Rule 1, don't feed. Rule 2, ward. Rule 3, don't feed. Rule 4, follow rules 1, 2, 3. Rule 5, is it prioritize objectives over kills.
Yep.
Rule number 6, don't feed. Rule number 7, this is rule 7. Ward again. Rule 8, see rules 1 through 7.
Exactly. Good job, Ian. You memorized my playbook very well. I'm proud of you. I'm very proud of you, actually. Like, that's all you need to do to win these games.
Oh wait, rule 9 and 10, don't tilt.
Oh yeah, that too.
And mute all. Hashtag mute all.
Mute all wins games. But yeah, it's just one of those things where, I'm seeing. Even okay, so like I took like last week off from playing League of Legends just because I needed a break and I needed to do something different. And when I came back, we're in 8-10. The game's slower. The game is definitely slower.
Other way.
10-8, sorry, yeah. 10-8. I would never go back. Well, I would definitely go back to 8-10. That was the patch right before they drove the stake through the heart.
Of 80 carries.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it's like tank mains. It's like season 4 towards the end. Season 5, Master 20. Actually, I think that season 6 or season 7 was the first. I was the only person in North America to get a pentakill on Virus. The kid or not. Apparently, I have it posted somewhere, but I was one of the few people to get a pentakill on Virus.
Well, that's pretty dope. But yeah, so it's just with slower games, i.e. tank meta.
Best meta. Hashtag best meta.
I like the tank meta. I think the tank meta is interesting because TTK goes way down. I mean, goes way up. For those TTK is time to kill. When your TTK is up, that means you have to play better over a longer period of time, because tanks still do damage. That's one thing that I think Riot will never have a tank not do damage, because then people are disincentivized to play said tank. They feel like because of the way the game is set up, like they feel like they take damage, but they don't disregard enough damage to then balance out with the amount of damage that they output. So it's one of those things where it's like, if you don't do any damage, but you can absorb like 3 times the amount of damage as normal, that feels good. It feels really, really bad for the person attacking you, but it feels really, really good because it's like, okay, I will never kill anything, but nothing will ever be able to kill me. Imagine a Dr. Mundo that had like the damage ability of like a Yumi, you know? You'd be like, this sucks, like, for trying to go after and kill people, but over the course of the match, you're playing Disruptor, you're slowing people down, you're staying on top of people. You know, it would take a long time to kill somebody, but if you play it correctly, you're gonna get your job done and accomplished. Whereas, like, right now, Mundo can just kill anybody. Mundo is terrifying. Mundo is terrifying. There's a build. There's a build on him right now where you build like Triforce Black. I think it's Triforce Bork, and then you go into full tank, and he's unstoppable. He gets like a dead man's or spirit visage, and a dead man's, and his boots, and you can't kill him, and he can like 3-shot you.
Mundo files you.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Same thing with champions like Maokai. Like, Maokai's ult used to be perfect. I loved his old ult. I understand why they nerfed Maokai's ult because of pro play. Because in our level of play and regular gamers, like on the ladder, because yeah, again, you have to remember the majority of players before they added iron, the majority of players were between like bronze 3 and like silver 3. Like that was where when they did like the bell curve of player base, that's where the majority of players were. So your average player was between basically like silver or mid bronze to mid silver. And back then when Maokai ulted, you had people that were like flash ulting away from the Maokai ult instead of letting people engage on them. Or Maokai's not even dropping their ultimate. But his ult was great. It was a 30% AoE damage reduction, if I remember correctly.
Hey, if you're in a circle, listen, hold on. Let's go back to the Wikipedias.
Are you gonna look it up?
Yes.
I want to say it was 30%. They might have it might have scaled like 10, 20, 30, but I think at the end it was like 30%. But either way, yeah, it was really, 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 really bad for pro play, but it was really, really fun for solo queue because you actually felt like you were protecting and saving your team. You know, you jump onto the Zed with your W that just ulted your AD carry, and as long as your AD carry is in the circle, that death mark isn't going to kill him, kind of thing. But Zed doesn't even get played in pro play, like. And now we're at a point where through little incremental buffs and changes, Maokai is coming back into the meta. If not, he is meta. He's been meta as a support for a while, and now people are finally playing him in the top lane. So.
And actually, in 10.8, he was deemed to be the most broken support on the patch because he's just that broken.
Yeah.
Is it? Apparently, it's coming from my old Maokai main. I love the damage reduction, but the kicker was you burned your mana, so that's why many people
that too.
Stack.
The give and take.
You had to. That's why you had the Roa build. That's why you went
Roa, Iceborne Gauntlet, Frozen Heart.
You stack anything with mana, heart mana. That means generally you
weren't building a tier on Maokai.
No,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Frozen Heart.
Crazy. You can pull that off.
Yeah. But I'm saying that's why you're saying Frozen Heart. These tank items that have mana components.
So it's a Frozen Heart. You stack that Frozen Heart. It was the inverse of the Rise build. Minus pretty much the same way you used to play Rise. It's mana stacking Rise back in the day. For those who don't know, you stack a tier, Roa. You finish Roa. You get your tier. Start Callus to finish Roa. And then you pick up Glacial Shroud and build into Frozen Heart. Start the tank build for the top lane. You pull it, and then you cast your abilities, spam your abilities to the point where you have about 3k mana. And then go to work.
Yeah.
Because that's when Rise of Damage came from his mana versus his AP. Like you didn't build.
I used to build the same way on Kassadin because Kassadin's Rift Walk used to have a really, really high mana ratio. So you just build the same exact way, and then your Rift Walk would do like the same damage that it should do on your third cast of your Rift Walk. It would do on like your first cast, but then they changed the ratios. But I figured we should probably start winding down. We've been at this a good time. I'm looking at 10 more minutes in the ballpark of.
Yeah. But yeah, so the reason we came to it, I couldn't find it, but it was a damage AoE 30% of your health that burned ticking. And the cool part is this: you could multiply recast it, so it was a toggle on and off with a cooldown. But the kicker was it burned a lot of your mana pool. So when you use it, you have to use it correctly.
It's kind of like using Anivia's ult. Now.
And the beauty of it, saplings actually did splash damage, and then it killed you. Listen, which was great because when you allow Maokai to
was it like Jax's ult where it didn't do like an explosion of percent of the damage that was mitigated?
Unfortunately, all this is faded from existence, and you can't find it anymore.
You should be able to find it on the League wiki, but I think it was kind of like how Jax is, where when you hit a certain point, excuse me, you hit a certain point of damage, and then it like did that damage that mitigated as damage to the people in the circle. So you would go in, tank a bunch of damage, reduce a bunch of damage, and then pop it back onto the people that were doing it to you, right?
That can't. This again cannot be found.
It's okay.
No, it makes you feel sorry.
Either way,
Wait,
I
history.
not sure how many of you are still in the chat or anything. If you guys wanted to talk about or ask anything going on with your solo queue games, I figured that would be a good way to close out. Whew.
Yeah.
But if not, hey, Smog is still here. Oh yeah. I remember you had messaged me about an issue that you had with
Passive players at the worst time.
Is that what it was? I remember you had an issue with your teammates calling you a certain R word. I mean, when you get 3 to 4 man gank constantly, yes, that sucks. I do have a remedy for that. It's gonna sound like I'm being crazy, but it's not about warding more. It's about where you ward. So I wish I was better at this. Mid lane, mind you, not bot lane. Yes, again, it's not about warding more. It's about where you ward. So you have to get like creative with your ward placement. A lot of times people will ward in the brushes, like the brushes that are on mid lane, or they'll ward in the river brushes outside of there. You have to almost start warding. It's probably about warding more for me, to be honest. Oh, do you just generally have like a low ward count overall?
Oh, that it is. It was Vengeful Maelstrom. The act is it this is what it used to cost? It was 475 rain, 40 mana plus 30 mana per second. Cooldowns at a minute, 50 seconds, 40 seconds, and it lowered. The active was Malcry creates a magical vortex that wraps himself up for 10 seconds, reducing all non-turret damage dealt to himself and ally in the vortex by 20%. For the duration, doubling the amount of damage absorbed, capping at Vengeful Maelstrom's base damage. At the end of the duration, upon reactivating from Maelstrom, minimum magic damage, 100, 150, 200 plus 50. It detonates the vortex.
Yeah, so I was right.
So basically, it was a free Zillion bomb.
Yeah, no vision score. That's what my team played me last game because I dropped a pink up bear and got 5 banned. Yeah. So okay. So yeah, if you're getting ganked, are you getting ganked in your own lane? No. I don't know. That's just a joke from Pro Guides or one of those YouTube channels that used to use that at the beginning of theirs. Mobilytics. One of them used to do that. It was really funny. But
that was the best ultimate.
It was a good ultimate. So yeah, first you want to like practice warding. It sounds crazy, but practice makes permanent. Perfect practice makes perfect. That's gonna be your best. That's gonna be your best option. So you're gonna want to practice in a way, or you're gonna want to go into a game in a way where you mentally have something, an objective that you're going to achieve in that game. I know I will go into games and my objective will be like something as simple as at least every 3 minions that I CS, I wanna auto attack. I want to auto attack the enemy champion. So then that way I'm practicing contesting, I'm practicing harassment, I'm practicing seeing how aggressively I can play, or never have 2 trinkets in my trinket slot. Always have one on cooldown or have both of them up. Never just never have 2 up. Just do these little things, and the awesome part is you can like put a stick it like a post-it note. You can put a post-it note by your mini map or put a post-it note in the corner when you where you look at like your stats and stuff like that. I should actually do it like this or down here. You know, wherever you place your information, you put the post-it note. So then that way when you're gaming and you're going and you look and it'll say, use your wards. You know, just something simple. Use wards, place wards, or it could be like look at minimap. You know, you could do one of those things where it's like look at the left corner, then look at the right corner, now look at the bottom corner, now look at the left corner again. One of those kind of like funny things. But seriously, just little things that you do on repetition. So right now, like you said, it's about placing words. So you just need to place more words in general. So you could make your goal like every time I back, I'm going to buy a word and place a word. And then from there you're gonna be like, I'm gonna place a word, and then I'm gonna place I'll call them like a unique word placement. Like those are the words that like go on top of the chickens camp, the rave camp. Not the ones that are just in your standard location or in your standard place and stuff like that. And that may be able to help you a little bit. When it comes to the whole ganking thing, because again, this one's gonna sound harsh. In high elo, they don't know, nobody cares like about, oh my god, you should have pinged missing, because when in high elo, everybody looks at their mini map. Everybody has a mini map and everybody looks at their mini map and everybody's aware.
And they use it.
Yeah, and everybody's aware. Oh shit. Oh crap. I mean, I did so well. This episode.
Well, the good news is, kids, he's allowed to do that.
That too. But
we'll be beeping it out on the YouTube.
But everyone, so everyone has a mini map and everything, and you go, oh crap, I don't see their bot lane anymore. Oh, their jungler was just doing their chicken camp. And I saw that they had blue buff, or I saw that they already had red buff. So the likelihood of them ganking and stuff like that. I'll look at the minimap, but there's never any vision to see anything since I'm stuck at bronze. And I mean, that's partially a bronze player excuse mixed in with a bronze player fact. You are not wrong in saying that no one is using their wards. But at the same time, that's when you have to say, since I have no information, I should play in the most
safest way possible.
Yeah, in a manner that is safer. With the lack of information I have, I should play in that manner. Like, yes, it sucks. Yes, it feels bad to have to like now play reserved or play like a B or whatever. But
no, just play like me. Just play cautious. Because you know they're coming.
But you're gonna see. So this is how I look at it. It's a net positive in playing reserved, because if you're just CSing and not playing aggressively, you're going to get your money, get your items, and hard carry and snowball, and those items snowball into kills, and the kills snowball into objectives, and the objectives snowball into wins. And if you're playing passively and somebody comes to gank you, guess what? You're under tower. Well, I see. Like no one. Like one time, I looked at the minimap while pushing my lane and saw my bot lane pushing their tower. That's when the enemy bot lane showed up in my lane and I got 4-manned. So it's just one of those things where that's just something you're gonna work on. It sucks, but the more you work on it, like the more the faster, huh?
Where did he ward? Because
he's already said that warding is something that he struggles with. So
it's like, and this is what King would tell you. Faker did this strategy when he's on, I think he was on Zed or something, where a champion he couldn't win into the matchup. So Faker uses this strategy from time to time, and this is what it's talent. You shove the lane, let's roam. Now he didn't go roam to a lane; he went to roam to a spot to ward. Now, I would tell you there's a Pro Guys Challenger video that will show you where smart places a ward. Like at some point, you don't need to put a ward right next to the bush that's between mid lane, that cuts off is it river path A to river path B. I like to call it north and south river. You want to be warding Death Bush A to Death Bush B.
I mean, it depends. I mean, there's so So again, I like to measure it or meter it with you do have to play to the elo that you're in, right? So the elo that you're in, when people are ganking you, they're most likely gonna be ganking you. I'm looking at it from blue side, like pretend you're playing from the blue side. There are people that will walk up the river into through the brushes, right through the brushes. But most players will walk like in that brush behind red buff and then come into your lane behind you. And why will they do that? Because it's the most optimal gank, especially if you're anywhere. So if you were to cut the map in half, if you're anywhere from where the little ledge to the middle of the map, and they come from behind that little passageway between the little alleyway between chickens and the river, that little walkway right there, that's where they're gonna get you. You know, because you're like, oh, I got my river warded, I'm set. I don't have to worry about anything. So for that one, that might be one where you put the ward in the river brush. Put the ward in the river brush. If they walk through that, you'll be able to see them. It's the stuff like that. But again, but going even further back, you like you said, you have to work on your fundamentals of making sure you have wards up, because if you're when you're in bronze, your team isn't necessarily going to be warding a lot, especially like bronze supports. I used to be in games. I used to be in games where I'd be in a game with a bronze support that had like a 6 ward vision score. A 6.
I had 12 by that time.
Jesus. You know, and it's just one of those things that, yeah, it really, 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 really sucks. But the more you focus on yourself and the more you worry about taking care of yourself in those games, the better and further you're going to find yourself climbing. And you'll climb away from those people who are, who create more hindrance than help in your climb. That's my piece. I'm all about tuckered out. I'm ready to call it.
Aww.
Oh yeah.
Is it? Well, listen, for me, it's like, well, this was fun.
Come here.
Time to go play more League. But yes, essentially, guys, what the back of what King was saying is this. Is it the one thing about League of Legends, and I wish a lot of people realize, League of Legends is a game that forces you to read and do math. I know both of those things are scary, but you gotta do math in League of Legends. You can't just show up like, man, I'm about to kill this food. Don't know how much your mana costs you. Don't know how much it costs to do X, Y, Z. Don't know how much time you got between the window you can go X, Y, Z.
I mean, again, I think I understand the enthusiasm, Ian, but I'm just gonna say it's all about the step by step. It's about kind of reinforcing the little things. It's about like I said, giving yourself little challenges. Like your little challenge could be the trinket thing. The trinket thing is like one of the easiest things to do, and it's one of the most beneficial. Just make sure your ward trinket you never have 2. If you have 2, then you immediately drop a new one. Like that's something to start off with. And then it's like, okay, every back, then you do that 5 games in a row, right? Do 5 games.
And every back you buy a pink ward.
Yeah. Then for the next 5 games, you make sure that your trinket thing is taken care of, but then you buy a pink ward every time you back, right?
And then you put the pink ward where it can be defended, or like for me when I'm playing jungle, I generally drop a pink ward in first time in Death Bush. Then if I get sneaky, I drop it in the bush in front of blue. Not next to blue, in front of blue. And this is why. Right added that bush right there.
I mean, I do like that bush. I like it. It's a smart brush.
But you try to ward towards the edge of the bush so you can get that blast cone area.
Mm-hmm. Where people jump over.
Well,
you're looking at you're doing the bottom lane. I do buy pinks when I don't have them, but I rarely use them. So yeah, like I said, it's practice. It's one of those like repetition. Because again, practice makes permanent. Like right now, you've made a permanent habit of buying pinks and not using them. That's what you've turned into your habit. So what you need to do is adjust your habit and buy these pinks and utilize them. Drop your trinket. Do things so that way.
That's a minimum of 150 gold. That's a fairy charm you ain't using. Dang. You got to use them because they help. Now, I wouldn't put them in the most obvious places in the world, i.e., Baron, i.e., Dragon Pit. I would sweep it, but I wouldn't throw it there. I put a pink ward somewhere that you can be defended. You can fight over it, but somewhere if they have to stop and go 1, 2,
Hey, what's going on,
3,
Haywire? Welcome,
4,
welcome. You just
you
caught.
know,
You're catching the end of the stream where we're hanging out with Shaq. He's being a cat, and we're just talking a little bit of shop before we close it out. But thanks for stopping by.
I think I saw my friend lurking here earlier. So, I saw my friend lurking earlier, but unless you say something in chat, I'm not gonna call you out. But I saw you, girl.
I give a shout
I was
out.
glad. But yeah, the point being is is the way I played it, the way I got learned how to play the game is because King destroyed me, and then he made me learn how to play the game. I'm going to tell you straight up, a lot of players be better at League of Legends if they did the following three things. And for once, don't feed is not the answer. Number one, read. You got to read playing League of Legends. One, because knowing what your champion does versus the interactions how your other champions do helps. Number two, quick math. Because guess what? It's knowing do math, like knowing what it takes to do
Haywire. Sorry.
X, Y, and Z. And three, my personal favorite, you gotta know how to communicate with others. Because guess what? This is a team game. It's not. This is 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 not Street Fighter. It's not Tekken. This isn't good old 1v first blood 1v1 match.
You're my leg. Oh, okay. Whew. I would say I agree with most of everything that you said. If I had to come up with three things that would help people climb, I would say one would be
Oh, I forgot practice. That was supposed to be the
play the game. That would probably be my first one. I think the other thing is a lot of people get caught up in having difficulties. There's like there was a season where I full on had like ranked anxiety. And it's crazy, like me now who doesn't like care. I'll hop in a rank game. I generally don't care. I have like 10 accounts, so it doesn't matter to me. But there was a time where I had legitimate ranked anxiety. It like playing ranked used to like bring on the sweats. I'd be like, oh no, if I play this rank game, this is gonna happen, and if this happens, I'm not gonna be, and then I'll be behind an LP, and I'll lose. If I lose my LP, I gotta play 3 more games just to get back to where I was, and then I'm gonna get to my promos, and when I get to my promos, they're gonna troll me in my promos, and then I'm gonna be back in bronze, and just the craziest shit, right? But I would say number one is play games. Play the game.
probably more normal games than ranked games.
I mean, whatever floats your boat. The only caveat that I put is if you're going to play ranked, do not experiment in ranked. Put your best foot forward in ranked. Like I am a big proponent. I hate when people are like, first time Zillion, and I'm just like,
really?
In this game right now is a game you decided to just wake up and play Zillion in my game. Thanks. Anyway. But I would just say
thanks for your man.
I would say play more games so that you're comfortable in that setting, so that you understand. Because the thing is, the reason why I'm advocate for playing a lot of ranked games is, I agree with the first timer thingy. Right? Yeah, the reason why I'm an advocate for playing a lot of ranked games is because ranked and normal play have two different mentalities and have two different mindsets for how the players like
to play the game.
Like how they like close out games, I guess is what I'll go with. Like in a normal game, if 2 lanes are losing, that's a 15-minute forfeit. That game maybe makes it out to like 22 minutes. But that same game in ranked will go to like 35, 37, 40 minutes because the enemy team will just not want to forfeit because it's ranked. And a lot of times you'll see like normals is really, really bad practice for how to close out a game because teams are messing around. People are practicing champions that they're not good on. And then once the going gets tough, they just FF and it's over with. Whereas in ranked, people are on the champions that they're better on. They're playing champions that they're good on, and then likewise as they're playing the champions that they're good on, they're also less likely to just forfeit because they're going through the same mental portion of it too. Like I just invested half an hour into this game. I'm getting something out of this half an hour, you know? So it's one of those things where it's just like normals, it's just bad practice for ranked. So if you're going to practice, like put your best foot forward, but play ranked. Whereas like I said, I can knock out three normal games in an hour, whereas I'll knock out 1 to 2 ranked games. You know what I mean? It's a bit of a difference of a variance. Secondarily, so if my first one is play more games, my second one would be with playing those games, play with a purpose. Like I go into games thinking of them as best of 3s or best of 5s. So that way I can stay focused on what I have to achieve in those best of 3. So if I lose a game, so the way I look at it is if I lose a game and then I win a game, my third game is the last game in my best of 3. If I win that game, that's cool. I take like a little break and then I'll come back into another set of best of 3 or best of 5. Sometimes I get to the end of my best of 3 and I make it a best of 5. Like I won my 2, now it's a best of 5. But that's not really the best way to go into it. But most of the time, I will do like the best of 3, take a break, or I'll go and say, all right, I'm going to play 5 games. I have a brick of time today. I'm going to play 5 games, win, lose, or draw. And not win, lose, or draw, I'm doing a best of. So if I lose 3 straight, we out. We done. We're done. I just lost 3 in a row. I lost my best of 5. I got swept, right? Whereas
King just jumps on another alt account, starts playing another game of League over there. What he doesn't tell you, he just jumps up. Well, our account is dead. Alter this account.
What are you doing, King Cat?
That's generally what happens to King. But the third thing King would say was probably again somewhere in the mention between A, don't feed.
No,
or B,
not that's not. Those are my rules. Those are my rules, like in the game. Don't feed. Rule number 1. Rule number 2, don't feed. Rule number 3, ward. But I guess the third thing I would definitely say when it comes to just general mindset for climbing and stuff like that. So yeah, play more. Play more. Play with a purpose, and understand. Like this is gonna sound like super philosophical or whatever, but understand that you're playing with human beings also. Like it sounds weird because we only see like the Katarina, we only know the Fiora, we know the sprites that are on screen or whatever. But remember, you're playing with and against humans. You know, like just being mindful of that. Will it helps me. You know. I'm not sure I'm playing with... So, yeah, sometimes you're playing with actual monkeys. Full-on Monka-esque. Just full-on Mongoloid, Neanderthal. Yeah, I got you. But in 90% of the situation, just be mindful. Because, like... people forget that we're interacting and talking to other people. Like right now, you're seeing my face, you're seeing Ian's face, right? But if you just saw like Demolisher 2253, you'd be like, this guy's an asshole. Screw this guy. And not knowing that, you know, this person is an individual. They probably have people in their lives that care about them or like them or something. And there's a reason for that. They're probably going through their own set of struggles, their own throes of life. So... I don't know. When I think of people as human and understand, it makes it easier for me to not tilt at my team. And then I realize that on the other side, someone wants to beat me. Somebody wants to win versus me. And I'm a competitor. So I'm like, all right, if you're good enough to beat me, it's gonna be hard work. And if you're not, then I'm gonna get this W because I'm playing against the individual. But I think on that front, it makes me more competitive against people. Because like I said, with sports, with fighting, with everything that I've done in competition, I've always been driven to beat other people, to outclass, outplay, just to be better. And then when it comes to the people that I'm playing with, it helps me with a level of compassion and understanding what those individuals and those people are going through and stuff like that. So yeah, I would say play more, play with a purpose, and play with and understand that other human beings are playing the game.
Yeah, and I back up what King said. It's like that.
You already said your 3. We're done.
Yeah.
Click.
Also, side note, use tech. Be Patrick. Be like Patrick when he.
That's a whole different thing. Like when so I'm gonna end it there. I'm gonna say thanks, because then it's just gonna be like, and one more thing, and one more thing. Oh, by the way, don't forget to do this either. But yeah, those are his 3. Those are my 3, and I gotta go make sure my cat isn't messing with my bunny.
Or worse, trying to fall into the toilet again.
Good night, Spog. You have a good one. Like I said, if you ever want to play, that's my gamer tag. In League, just hit me up on League. We can grind out some games and stuff. I can add you to like an alt account so that we can work on stuff. And yeah.
Also, hopefully next episode. Also, the one thing we didn't mention, the schedule.
Oh yeah, we don't have one of those. All right, guys, have a good night. See you later. Peace.